Welcome back, everybody, to the panel here at DreamHack Open Stockholm. We have one final game before we end tonight and before we have just 16 players remaining. And as Sue mentioned, it will be Snute versus Solar, a massive game coming up. But before we get into that, we'll go over the groups very briefly here with our three experts once again, just to kind of remind ourselves where we are in the tournament. Some results that are coming in are expected, some not so much. Sue is up against Classic in the winners match right now on Naniwa's stream.
Man, that's a game to watch.
That is a game to watch.
GSL rematch. Quick side note, Artosis is also not casting that.
No, he's not casting that either.
Nope.
Sakshri, by the way, was the first player to make it to the bracket stage, the top 16. He hasn't dropped a map yet. Of course, a former DreamHack champion earlier this year at Valencia. Jadon currently 1-0 up versus Ryung in the winners game there, looking at his top 16 as well. Excellent. So we're seeing a lot of developments here. We saw CJ Hero ease through his group as well there, 4-0 in maps again. MMA is leading versus Life, I think was the last update I had.
Talk about my dong.
Everyone loves the dong. And then Bunny is against Patience, I think, in the... No, Bunny through first place. Look at the results of the group.
Whoa.
First place, 2-0. Doesn't say maps, the 0-0 maps, but 2-0. Bunny first place in his group, which is the only non-Korean to advance yet, boys.
Wow, that's huge.
Damn.
Yeah, he beat,
was it Lilbo? Of course, through. He beat Lilbo and then would have beaten Patience to advance, if that is correct. As Patience beat Yoda just before. So, what do you think about those results?
I like Bunny's TVP. I'm not really surprised. I think unless Lilbo or Patience try anything crazy, in which case it obviously didn't work. Like TVP is pretty straightforward these days, and Bunny's just good at it.
Yeah. Really well said. Really well said. Well said.
I mean,
he played probably just.
I mean, honestly, if you ask me, if you're like Nate, what do you really think? I would tell you that out of those 4 games, he probably did some sort of very light early pressure and then pulled all his SCVs at the between the 13 and 16.
You are destined to be like a San Diego.
I'm just saying that's how this matchup plays. Maybe Patience blink all in him and fail. I'll give you that one.
He plays a pretty good TVP, and unless he faced Cheese, then he'd probably beat it, I guess. But it's just
that's not fair. Okay,
you know what? If this was like, just get QXE over here.
You know, if it was like Supernova who played versus, I'm like, you know what? He probably killed him with like an 8 tank push. He probably had like 3 Ravens and Seeker Missile his own Medivacs to fly them into the probe lines. But that Bunny he just plays straight up. So I don't know what to tell you, man. Maybe versus Zerg he would have done mech, but
I think to be honest,
can we agree? Maybe if he played against Zerg, he would have played mech.
If you ask me what I think about this match, I'm saying he plays very straightforward, and I'm not surprised because that's what he's good at.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
Sunny and 75.
Jesus.
All right, on to our next game, the final game of the evening. Snute versus Solar. We've seen it once before earlier on the group. Snute won 2 games to 0. But now, this is the most important game that Snute has played in a very, very, very long time. Because if he loses here, BlizzCon dreams are shattered for Snute. This is a massive game. And the curse.
Which, by the way, Mana overcame earlier, beating his opponent, the French guy. God, have I already forgotten him? Is that how terrible? Anyways,
hey, great job, Jeff.
I know.
It was Petrif Drogo. You're welcome.
PT Drogo. It was not Petrif.
It was P-Tit, actually. P-Tit Drogo.
P what?
P-Tit Drogo.
Excuse me, sir.
Back on the matchup.
It could have been breast, but
is it going to be a
the point is
win
exactly.
Or not?
I think the very scary thing here is you've got that looming over you. Suddenly, Solar looks at this and says, "Well, gosh, apparently this guy can beat me pretty easily. I need to give him my A game." On the flip side, Snute says, I want to be the only foreigner to go to BlizzCon. I have to win this series. So both these guys, very big series. It's going to be amazing.
We see the win record there, 65% for Solo, which is a very healthy. I mean, anything above 60 is incredibly healthy as a win record there. The curse, let's talk about the curse. We've talked about it a little bit earlier on. Nathaniel, explain to me, for some of these viewers who may not know, why does that curse of the second match appear? Why is it more likely that Solar can win? No.
Wait your turn, Thor.
Let Mini-Me talk.
I think when you have to win games, you typically...
As someone who works in Dolly System America, I know all about this. The guy, the non-Korean player wins the first match, loses in the winner's match in what, was usually maybe a little bit closer, but then you end up having the rematch, and typically the Korean player takes the victory there. Why?
Tell us
me
about
why.
the curse.
Why?
Why?
Go deeper. Next level.
Who made this curse?
Inception.
I usually just think about Major because it happened like 3 times against Asia.
Why does it exist?
The thing is, we're trying to make
Dude,
you
do
grow.
I look like an oracle in my Protoss here? Like, I just take things as they are.
Ask
Come
me,
on.
I'll show you.
Come on.
Jeff, why?
A lot of times this happens on the psychological level. When you get knocked out in the first time around, you say, okay, well, those bag of tricks typically worked in that first series, but in the second series, they're less likely to work. So the players mentally adjust, they prepare themselves better. The tricks are out of the bag. A lot of times that lesser player, namely the non-Korean, takes that first series because they're able to like hinge their play off those tricks. But in that second series, the Korean goes, I'm the better player, and they win, thus justifying the curse and thus creating these results.
Thank you, Jeff. I will cheers to that. Brilliant.
Cheers to that.
You
Cheers
are a great caster,
Boys,
Jeff.
thank you.
The game is
Thank you.
ready. Moonglade, Nathanius, give us your
thanks.
best once again. Thank you very much.
No problem.
right.
Thank you very much, mate. As we jump into the ZVZ, the map is loaded. It is going to be Overgrowth.
I'm ready for roaches, man. Let's do it.
You ready for roaches? I'm ready for roaches. I'm ready for no early pulls by the looks of things. So who do we have to the top right here? Nathanius.
We've got a red Zerg representing Team Liquid. He is Snute, who won his first match against our blue Zerg player earlier.
That's right.
And then dropped to Jockchi in the last series.
That's right. And the Zerg player that we are talking about happens to be Solar. Has to win this match to stay in the tournament and to crush Snute's hope at making it to BlizzCon. And I'm not sure if he actually wants to do that, because that is pretty horrible thing to do. But he did go down 2-0 before. So this is going to be kind of interesting to see if he can bounce back from that, because that's a pretty convincing loss.
Yeah, that's. I still think, we didn't get to see those matches, right? And I think about 2-0s, and I think about today's 2-0s, and I can't help but think about that series we saw between Kane and First, where it's like, yeah, it was a 2-0, but
It was the closest 2-0 you could imagine.
yeah, it was about as close as a 2-0 ever gets. So maybe Solar just barely lost those 2 games. Maybe Snute had to make like a sick comeback play.
Yeah. It can happen. It can happen. I'm sure we just don't know. We just didn't get to see the match.
And in ZVZ, like, there's just so many ways that the game can turn in, an instant.
It could just be. It could be a build order victory. It could be a Temple versus 15 Hatch to close things out. It just happens. It can happen to anyone. Absolutely anyone.
So what do you like to see on this map? Obviously, both players opened with Pool into Hatchery. Not very greedy, but
Very safe play. No gases whatsoever. So we could very well see a gasless Roach play. Wouldn't be a bad idea. Going for that 15 pool obviously means you get that queen out earlier, which means the Overlord cannot scout your base. It'll have to run away before the queen comes out and kills it. And then we do see a later gas follow-up, so we will see Speedlings after all. So no gasless Roach for now, but it's always a transition after these Speedlings. We'll have to wait and see exactly how everyone's going to go about their style, but Roaches are the trend, are the most popular, even though we did see some Mutiverse Muter earlier today.
I mean, both players so far kind of step in step. The gas mining is at the same exact rate. Does this have to be a delayed speed, or could this be some sort of weird layer play? How does the scouting on this map work out? Because you, of course, don't have a lot of space to hide an Overlord behind the main. Is not being able to see a gas because they both went pool first going to have a heavy impact on the game?
Yes, it can be a huge impact. It's one of the most important things to scout. And we do see Zerglings moving across the map for Solar, which is going to be very, very important. We're going to have to wait and see if Snute can actually deflect them, because if he scouts the gas and the gas timing and the amount of gas mined from the extractor, he'll know exactly what he's going up against, especially if he also sees the spawning pool.
Yeah,
shaking.
running the 2 lings in, I feel like, is always such a big deal if you can get that read.
Oh, he does not scout anything.
Oh, man,
So
he didn't even see the
huge
pool.
denial.
Yeah, this really complicates things, right? Because as a Zerg player, I mean, obviously he's going speed for himself. Like, they're both doing the same thing. It's just impossible to know that they're both doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
And that means you don't know if the other player has a Baneling nest, if they don't. And it feels weird trying to analyze this because according to the production tab, as someone who can see everything, we know they're doing the same exact thing. But these 2 players have no idea what each other are doing.
Yeah, they have no real idea, that's for sure. We do see, looks like Snute actually will get the scout off that.
Well, this is really nice for Snute.
Yeah, very nice.
He has lings coming out as he's going to get his Baneling nest, and his speed's almost done. But at this point, does this look like something that would trigger Snute to build more lings? Because so far, there's... I guess he's starting to build drones
he's already
now.
committed to it. But yeah, he looks like he's going to go for the aggression into droning instead of what Solar did, which was droning into Zerglings. So we're going to have to see Solar go on the back foot here because there's actually a lot of Zerglings out for Snute.
Well, Solar he just canceled the evolution chamber he was building, and Roachworn starts up some Banelings, and suddenly he's like, you scouted me, now it's time for me to get on the aggressive, and I don't know if you saw that drone move out because Snute just started at third base, and this could make things awkward very quickly.
Yep, absolutely. We do see the lair started being upgraded from Snute as well. Very, very quickly there. Kind of getting it before Solar could actually scout it, which is actually a great way to kind of hide some information. He doesn't know that the lair actually just started. It could be all the way through at this point. He has no idea. Nice little move there from Snute.
This is a really big opportunity for Solar, though. With the way that everything's lining up, he has a lot of resources pooled. He's going to go straight into Roaches.
Yeah, it's going to be that Roach Baneling timing.
Yeah, this can hit before there's really anything to deal with it. Like, Snute's Roachworn will be finishing up around the time this push hits if he commits and goes across the map with it. But he won't have any Roaches out on the map yet.
Yeah, this is actually going to be a very, very, very big problem for Snute. And
on the flip side, if he doesn't die to this, if he doesn't lose all of his drones, like if he is able to trade even or hold, then he has a huge tech advantage. Like his upgrades, his lair, everything looks good. He just needs to not die here.
We'll have to wait and see how many Roaches we're going to see Snute going to make, actually, because that's going to be the biggest thing yet. We're going to see these Roaches move out, and we see one Roach being made from Snute, so things are not looking good whatsoever. Banelings are morphing, and you see a huge
trading Banes can be okay, but the problem is he still doesn't have anything like spine crawlers, so there's nothing to actually kill the Roaches of Solar. And he's transferring out drones now.
Yeah, he's in big trouble at this point. He has completely misscouted this, and huge amount of drones being made. Snute played such a greedy game, and Solar did the perfect counter build.
Yeah, even though
closing things out at this point, I think there's simply nothing that Snute can do against this.
Even though Snute has a bunch of Roaches of his own in production, it's just they're going to be coming out in front of these Roaches so they can get picked off very quickly. Queen's going to be targeted down too, and morphing Banelings inside of Snute's base. He does still have a good number of drones at that third, but it's just rallying enough Roaches to stop even the Zergling reinforcement flood it's damn near impossible at this point. The upgrades he was looking to get have been canceled too.
Speedlings are just going to constantly flow across the map while these Roaches are tanking everything, doing damage to everything. Even if Snute cleans it up at this point, he is too far behind. He has lost every drone in the natural and the third base. He's actually going to lose that third base for sure and guaranteed. And from here, I mean, Snute might be able to defend this. Actually, no, not even that. He's simply just too far behind at this point.
Yeah, there's no way to even give up his advantage just to play the game out a little bit longer. He's out of time. Solar's going to start up his lair, his evolution chamber. He's going to kick off 10 drones. Meanwhile, still ravaging Snute's natural expansion. And this is definitely not a fun start for the rematch. And Solar, he's taking this very seriously. He sensed an opportunity to just kill him, and he took it. Does the evolution chamber that Snute saw when he sent those 2 lings in, does seeing that tell him anything that makes Solar say, well, if he's anticipating me to get like a +1, he probably won't be prepared for me to just cancel this and all in him?
Yes, that's actually definitely one way to play it. You show that evolution chamber. He's like, oh, okay, he's going for the Roach build. So, he's going to go Roaches, he's going to get +1, he's going to wall off his base and go for a very economic build. So, obviously, the reaction to that would be to take a faster third base and be very, very greedy behind it. And we saw Snute be very greedy behind it, to the point where he had absolutely nothing when like 12 Roaches and mass Zergling Baneling came to his base. He had like a wave of drones coming out as the Roaches were hitting his base. He was completely caught off guard by that.
Is there any way that he can be similarly greedy but still survive? Like, does he just start spines, or I guess I don't know what tells him he
needed
needs
his Roachworn a minute earlier, and he should have just been pumping Roaches that whole time. Then he would have had a great chance to defend against it. But in that sort of situation, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. It feels like you can either get away with having the faster third than your opponent and then defending with like the faster Roachworn, or you get your lair but no third base. Like, you can only afford to really do one while being that greedy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It comes down to the builds, and I mean, he really had to scout what kind of build it was going to be. He did scout the Baneling Nest, he did scout the Zergling speed, so he knew what kind of gas income Solar had and what kind of tech he had, but he still decided to play super greedy from it. And maybe he was thinking, like, you know what, Solar's probably going to go into Mutalisks from here, so he can get that faster third base and defend with Ling Bane, which is fine, absolutely fine, but the way Solar played it, putting down that Roachworn, avoided going lair and just going for that all-in, was a perfect response.
It almost makes me think with how greedy he was in response to that, that's something like one of the builds that Solar pulled out in the first series that they might have played earlier, and Snute was like, well, you did this. You had that evolution chamber, and you kind of played out for like a +1 roach attack with Lair, so I'm just going to try to match that and be a little bit greedier with my third base timing, but Solar just, it really feels like he tricked him with that one.
Yeah, definitely. Really nice mind game from Solar.
Yeah, we're loaded into game number 2 now. Catalina, how you like this map for ZVZ?
It's not a bad map. Not a bad map at all. It's kind of the same as every other map. So it's potentially roaches, potentially mutas, I guess, these days.
I feel like it's a bit easier to get the overlords into scout, though, no?
Yeah, definitely. 3-player map. It's a lot easier to scout in general. And yeah, you can get your overlord to the other opponent's base a lot quicker compared to the last map. So we'll have to wait and see what they're going to go. But yeah, not too bad. Who do we have in the bottom, the mid left here?
And well, it is none other than Team Liquid's very own Snute.
Oh, indeed.
You know, man, this is such an important map for him. He's on the brink of elimination. If he loses this map...
This is the BlizzCon map.
That's it.
This is the BlizzCon map, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, the scariest part is this is the BlizzCon map, and then if he wins it, the next map is also the BlizzCon map.
Yeah, there's a lot of BlizzCon maps. But,
two games against this guy is not going to be easy at all.
Yeah, and this guy being Solar. Yeah, check that out. And yes, Solar playing very, very solid. He took a very convincing win there, and it just shows that, you know, you can beat someone in a 2-0 like this, but it's a mirror match, and, you know, anything can happen. There's a lot of mind games, a lot of all-ins, especially when you're rematching someone. There's a lot of information given in that first best-of-3.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Snute employed any, like, really, really aggressive strategies in that first series. Solar has not busted out the early pools, and I guess... neither of these two players strike me as the early poolers, not in this matchup. Like, because even Snute will go maybe like an economic pool first against Terran, but he's not the kind of guy to go for the crazy cheese. And in ZVZ, that's also a huge risk because, as we can see, Solar's first Overlord actually goes to Snute's base, so he would have already seen anything leaving in the early phase anyway.
Yeah, absolutely right. And he does see that hatchery go down at a 15 pool timing, so he knows exactly what's going on. And it looks like the Overlord's actually going to get a pretty good view of the base before the Queen can even get out, just because of how this map layout is, because of how small it is by air.
Yeah.
He's going to scout the entire main base. So very nicely done. He's going to see no gas whatsoever. And we're going to have to wait and see if Snute's going to start one very, very shortly like he did last game. And yes, he does.
Yeah.
So same sort of timings.
The fun comparison between this map and Overgrowth is that his Overlord, despite it being a gas-first build, a pool-first build, he can still see that gas and know that Snute is pretty much so far doing the same thing that he did the last game, whereas Solar can get away with being greedy because he's not facing a fast pull. He goes hatch first, he gets his gas, and he's going to have much faster access to Zergling speed.
Yeah, absolutely. Going for the gas before pull. 15 hatch, 16 gas, 15 pull. Pretty much means you get Zergling speed in the fastest way possible. So, yeah, he's going to have Zergling speed around the 550, 6-minute mark, and from there he's got map control. He can apply pressure if he wants to. He can go for a very, very fast third base off this, which is something we see a lot as well.
Yeah, I like that. I feel like on this map, if you want to do anything other than like a fast third, you have such a tight ramp into your natural expansion that blocking with evolution chambers or queens or even just having banelings sitting at the top of the ramp make it very difficult to go for any type of direct assault pre-third base.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely favor Solar in these positions as well, just based on third base positioning.
Yeah, it's kind of the rally distance between the third base. It doesn't really change for Solar being aggressive, but for Snute it definitely does.
Whoop, Snute going for drone kill. Almost gets it. Whoa, 1 HP drone there.
Yeah, and Solar starts his Baneling Nest. Cancels it now that that drone is... now that the Ling's gone.
I like this a lot. I wonder if you're going to see an Evolution Chamber anytime soon. We do see 100 gas already. He could go for an early lair as well.
Yeah, I feel like if you cancel that Baneling Nest, if he's showing he doesn't want to have the Banelings either defensively or aggressively, I'm kind of waiting to see him go for the third, but he has not yet moved a drone out there.
So he's going to continue just to drone up for now, be as greedy as possible. Not investing in any Zerglings whatsoever. I mean, we did see... oh, he even canceled Zergling's speed, actually.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, he's going for a very, very greedy, very risky kind of style here. Very, very fast roach speed.
Both players canceled Zergling speed. They're like, well, I guess I probably don't need this.
Yeah, I like this a lot, actually. This is actually getting very interesting. We do see the lair start a lot earlier.
Somehow, despite all the differences between these players' openings, they're pretty much doing the exact same thing.
That actually is so funny, yeah. Both lairs starting almost the exact same time.
ZVZ is funny like that. Like the Roach Warrens, the lairs, they're all timed out dead even. Just waiting for +1 missile attack now to start for Solar.
Yep. So at the end of things, everything is exactly the same. Well
Moonglade, elaborate a little bit more. You like the spawn positions for Solar more, and I kind of like pointed out the distance between the third and the natural for attacking, but is there anything else that Solar likes, or do you disagree with what I said?
No, I agree completely. Absolutely, completely. The third base is a lot closer to Solar than Solar's will be to Snoot's. In these kind of positions here, we're going to see the third base be made further away. So I kind of like it in that sort of regard there. Solar has the further away third, the safer third, I think.
Oh, a little Ling. Solar gets like one Zergling into the base of Snute, gets to peek around a little bit.
Yeah, sees kind of everything. He knows exactly what's going on. He's like, oh, okay, so it's pretty much exactly the same build order here.
I like what Snute, did you see this? He like he used the Overlord to drop creep just to get a further out tumor.
That's cute.
In ZVZ, people sometimes like really question about how much creep they want to spread, but this seems like Snute definitely likes having the vision, even if it gives both players the speed advantage.
Yeah, it gives vision, which is very, very important. I mean, it's still great to have it, but it can be a double-edged sword. If you lose a fight, then obviously they're going to have a faster path to your base. So it can be good, can be bad. Generally, I think it's a good thing, though. Like, you want to have as much map vision as possible. And obviously, creep everywhere is going to help you until you maybe lose that fight and have to retreat. But it still helps you retreat as well, so it's not a terrible thing in all regards.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you used to in the old days, like no one would ever spread creep because like I just don't want my opponent to be able to counterattack me.
Yeah, well, everyone used to just go muleless too. So
there's
creep doesn't even matter. Like
there is also that.
Yeah, but
I think I'm like dipping into like ancient scrolls of ZVZ history there on that one.
It's true, but it's good. It's fine.
So the builds are pretty much lined up.
It's amazing how similar this is actually.
I was gonna say, as a non-Zerg player, I look at this and I'm like, both players are doing the same. But is there anything you can pick out that you like or dislike for one player more than another?
The +2 is considerably, or it's maybe like 30 seconds ahead of Solar's. So Snute gonna have like a little tiny window where you have an upgrade advantage there. It's gonna be hard if he actually makes use of it. We're gonna have to wait and see if we're gonna see any sort of corruption.
They have the same amount of gas, same amount of well, even the +1 carapace starts up at the same exact time for both of them. It's not fair how good these guys are.
It's not fair how exactly the same these builds have been. But,
these production tabs have actually been the same since they canceled their Zergling speeds, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. We have to wait and see if we see any contaminates, which is actually can play a big part
in
slowing down these upgrades, which is very, very essential if you want to do a timing. And it looks like we see Snute moving across the map here, so he's going to apply some aggression, force out some maybe some roaches that Solar didn't want, but I think at this point Solar's on pure roach production. So
Solar put out about four or five more drones in the early phase. He's ahead just a handful, but it doesn't seem like it's anything crazy because the roach count is still close enough that I feel you don't want to just take a fight. I guess in Zerg versus Zerg, is it just they max out and then start to trade, or is this a map where maybe they just draw it out?
Yeah, it's definitely going to get to a point where it's going to be a trade. It's going to be very, very positional because honestly, both sides are going to have the exact same supply and upgrade. So it's pretty much entirely going to be positional at this point. We do see Solar being a little bit more greedy though, getting an extra gas. Yeah. He's actually got every gas. Oh no, every gas except one in his main.
He's at 5. He has 5 extractors compared to just 4 of Snute. Does this mean much, or is this going to allow him to switch into something else more easily?
It will allow him to switch into Hydras a lot easier for sure, or Infestors if he wants to.
Contaminate being used too. He's going to contaminate Snute's +2 attack, which is actually quite nice since he's trying to attack now.
Oh, but here we go. Snute wants to fight here, and I'm going to have to give the concave advantage to Snute as well, being very, very aggressive here.
But Solar does have queens that can help him with a little bit of extra range. He has a transfuse or two, but Snute's supply is still staying just a little bit higher at the moment.
Yeah, the only problem is the rally, the remax point is so close for Solar that he's eventually going to get roaches out, and it's going to have to push Snute back. So Snute is going to have to commit until the point where he has to retreat from these reinforcing roaches.
Yeah, I'm disturbing. It's like disturbing how fast the +2 finishes for both players on time. So neither of them getting a real advantage in this fight versus each other. It's just the pure roach numbers. And at this point in the game, despite having the faster reinforcement point, Snute seems to have gotten a little bit better of a trade in all of this.
Yeah, he did actually. Yeah, he's up 20 supply at this point, so very, very nice.
You know what else is disturbing now? I'm looking at like the overall units lost. Snute lost 55 roaches, and Solar lost 57.
Wow.
Could the game... I mean, the supply tells a weird story, but in my eyes, I'm like, could this game be much more even?
Yeah, it's actually It's very even at that point, but I mean, look at the supply difference. 30 supply difference. Snute is ahead.
It seems like Solar is taking a little bit of a risk here, using maybe that extra extractor that he had, because he's going for Burrow and Burrow move. But if both players have Overseers, is it better than having a handful more Roaches, is what I'm wondering.
Well, it's always good to have the Burrow and Burrow movement. It can even with Overseers, it can be very hard to catch everything, especially with so much creep spread. They're just going to be flying by like nothing else, and it's going to be forcing Snute to kind of be defensive at every point. But I mean, judging like the map layout as well is going to be hard for Burrowed Roaches to get in at the same time. So we'll have to wait and see, especially with the supply deficit that Solar has. He's got to be careful how much he's going to commit to harassment and that sort of play.
All right, I can dig it. It's always weird because when you go for these upgrades, sometimes it exposes you to a big attack from the other Zerg player. But in this instance, Snute is taking, I don't know if it's a similar risk, but they're switching to Hydralisks. I think it's like if you can get in like 13, 14 Hydras mixed in with your max Roach Ball, like the extra damage output they have is just gnarly for straight up engagements.
Yeah, it actually changes everything. Like once there's maybe like six plus Hydras out, you're going to beat every mass Roach sort of attack. Hands down. There's simply no way you can lose it. And we see a perfect scout.
Great use of Overseer. Yeah, those Bird Roaches are not going to accomplish anything. Solar wants to press the top side too, but Snute is just in perfect position to handle all of it. And of course, you know, the Roaches get a little bit of extra
this concave here is a very, very bad concave. For Snute, he's got to be careful.
I think he saw the first Hydra too. Wow, Solar is actually pumping out a ton of Lings and building that Baneling nest.
I like this. This is definitely one way to fight against Roach Hydra with Mass Roach.
How effective do you find this? Do you use this at all? Because I feel like I rarely see the player that goes for the big Baneling attack. Like unless they can somehow flank the Hydras, I've never really seen it work effectively.
It's definitely one way to fight against Roach Hydra. You got to get decent Baneling hits, but I mean, even if you're hitting Roaches, if you're hitting a huge clump of Roaches, you're going to win the fight simply because the Roaches are going to get so damaged, but he's still going to be careful in positioning. And that's actually going to be enough Banelings to do some critical damage in this composition. We're going to have to wait and see what they hit, though.
All right, he doesn't have speed. He does run in. No, I think I'm starting to see what you're saying, though. He forces a lot of these units back. They're not actually fighting against the main Roach force of Solar. Snute, though, immediately remaxing. Solar also remaxing. But these Hydras in the back are being allowed to fire, and I feel like this is always a nice spot to be in. Oh, look at this! He even pulls like a small clump of Roaches to target the Hydras.
Absolutely, and yeah,
that was a sexy play.
Everything has just been so damaged from these Banelings that these Roaches are actually going to clean up.
That was such a sexy play to grab those Hydras, because I feel like if you just sit there and let them wail away with their super fast attack speed, you get crushed, and suddenly... I liked Snute's position when he was able to get the Hydras out, but Solar is just ravaging him now.
Solar knew exactly what he was doing. He knew the position he was in, and he knew that this Hydra switch was going to come, and he had the tech ready.
I apologize for doubting the Baneling's Moonglade.
Oh, don't you worry, mate. It's quite all right. But it's good to see it finally come out like this. And from here, I mean, 60 supply up. Snute's in huge trouble here. He could actually be out.
The Spine's not able to burrow in time. Solar is trying to shut down the BlizzCon hopes of the Team Liquid Zerg. Barely now defending this outer area of his third, of his potential fourth. And well, most importantly is natural, because once Solar gets up this ramp, he can kill that Roach War and he can shut down all the production. There's just nothing left for Snute, and his run in DreamHack Stockholm will come to an end.
Such a shame. Such a shame.
A lot of Snute fans are, I think this is that time when you're like, well, who else is it that could potentially knock him out? Everyone just became really big anti-fans of innovation.
Yeah, this is a real shame for Snute. It's so painful, considering he did beat Solar already 2-0.
Yeah.
Then in the rematch goes down 2-0 like this. Tragic way to end his DreamHack tournament and to reduce his chances of getting to BlizzCon. Does it mean he's completely out? I can't remember if it's like, I think it's like 16, it's a low percentage.
He's in right now, but the problem is you have other players that could also get points in this tournament. Like, for example, Bunny still being in this tournament and in WCS Europe makes him a threat. Innovation, if he wins the GSL, then I think he actually bumps everybody down a spot too.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
And Jaedong is also still in it, right? So
yeah,
Jaedong could actually overcome Snute, and then if Jaedong overcomes him, and then Innovation wins GSL, then that's it, I think.
Yeah, very true.
That's a very scary spot to be in for Snute.
Very, very rough. It's so much pressure for this tournament. You had to do well. You had to get that round of 8, and he was so close. That one best of 3 away, and he couldn't get it. So very sorry to Snute and to Snute fans, but very well played from Solar. Showing some great play, great reading of the strategies and going into that Roach Baneling sort of style. Perfect counter to this Roach Hydra that we saw from Snute.
Yeah, Solar, we know I've been following him for a little while, and you get to cast him in Pro League. He's always been he's always been a good Zerg player. His English is actually pretty damn good too.
Yeah,
I've had the pleasure of talking to him, but man, this has been a nice, it's a nice couple months for him in the non-Korean tournaments.
Yeah, he's been doing very well for himself. First, when he did that IEM Shenzhen, he got second place. So very, very impressive. Yeah, he's a great up-and-comer, very young still too, so great future ahead of him.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see how he performs in the next year, because I kind of known him. I talked to Cats about him and whatnot. He's like all on top of like all these Zerg players that are up and coming, and Solar has just consistently been an impressive Zerg player to watch. So looking forward to see how he does in the rest of this tournament as well. Since he will now also advance, of course, out of the group. He's now made it to the top 16. He's going to be joining out of this group Jock Chi, who was the player that knocked Snute out in that winners match. But man, Snute, it's got to be a rough feeling to know that your fate is no longer in your hands.
Yeah, you just sort of sit back. I'm sure he's relieved, though, that he's finally finished all these tournaments and he can just relax and just kind of like let it happen. But at the same time, going through so much, so many tournaments, and then coming out and not making it to BlizzCon is kind of heartbreaking as well.
Yeah, he's pretty much hit up every possible tournament in the last few months. Definitely not a fun time for him. But let's hear from our winner, Solar. We've got Smix down at the arena. What's going on?
Thank you very much, Nathanius. Congratulations, Solar, on your victory and advancing on towards the top 16. I'm sure you're very ecstatic about that. Now, the first question that I have for you is that when you first played Snute, you actually lost 0-2. Was that because did you underestimate Snute, or were you just surprised at his style? What happened there, and how did you change your mindset when you played him again?
I think I'm better at mainstream, I think. And Snute was really good at last race, so I think I don't need to go long game. So I finished him earlier.
Now, that's funny that you mentioned that you do better on the mainstream. Is that because you get excited knowing that there's so many more people watching you? I feel like for a lot of players, it would be the opposite because they get nervous.
I think mainstream many people love mainstream, so I can show my performance to many people. So I love mainstream.
Now, I need to ask this just because so many people were watching this game, because this game meant Snute's continuing on the road to BlizzCon. And you were the obstacle in that road, and you stopped him. So are you sorry to Snute at all? How do you feel towards him?
He's my best friend in EU, so I felt very sorry to him. But I think he will do really, really good job in next year.
All right, well, this is your first DreamHack, is that correct? Yeah. Is this your first DreamHack? Yes, that's what, yeah. So this is your first DreamHack. Is your goal here to qualify for DreamHack Winter, or are you just taking it one game at a time?
My goal is DreamHack Winter. To go Winter, I have to do very well next day. So I will prepare many things in mind next day. Okay.
Now, last but not least, you had an amazing run at IEM Shenzhen. That tournament had so many amazing players. This DreamHack is being called the hardest DreamHack of all time because of the amount of high-level players that are here, yourself included. Because of that, I mean, how confident are you going into Game 2? And just based on how well you did at IEM Shenzhen, do you think this could be Solar's tournament?
Yes, it will be. I will take it.
Sounds great. Confident words from our player Solar. Make sure to cheer for him tomorrow. Actually, this will wrap it up for day one here in the tournament area. We're actually going to head back to the studio just to take a look at everything that happened here at day one on DreamHack Open Stockholm.
Thank you, Smix. Amazing as always. And we'll be joining you in the arena tomorrow, of course, heading over there ourselves to the Globe, the big ball in the middle of Stockholm. Guys, let's talk about Snute for a couple of seconds here before we move on. Like they said, like you guys said, it's out of his hands now. He needs everybody who's still in the running below him to lose.
Everyone to lose.
Innovation has to lose. Pig Baby has to lose. Bunny has to lose. 4GG has to lose.
Man,
all these guys.
That's a lot of losses.
And
I don't know, man.
It's a small chance.
As you
this
retweeted,
happens.
if Snute doesn't make it to BlizzCon, it will be the first BlizzCon to not have a foreigner involved.
Yeah.
But he's still top 16 currently. I mean, it's not
He's
like
still
he's
top
out
16.
of top 16.
He's not out yet.
but
He's super dead.
he's in a lot of trouble. What was the percentage? It's like 7-10% that he stays in top 16. So
If we just froze that top 16 now, halfway through this tournament,
They're like, guys, sorry, GSL, you're actually playing for nothing.
it's like, well,
Except a
We
little
need
money.
Snute in there.
a lot of money.
Except a lot of money.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at the group stage just to kind of wrap up today. Day one here at DreamHack Open Stockholm. We've had some fantastic results. The two other players that were in our spotlight for this day, MMA and Jaedong, both advanced to the round of 16. MMA guarantees himself a slot at BlizzCon. There are only 2 slots available now.
Wow.
As he is on the same points as Sue, who is also qualified to go to BlizzCon. Jaedong,
Closing that
closer
gap.
and closer and closer.
Closing it.
And so 2 spots still available with Jaedong hovering over one of them right now. But guys, what stands out? What did you enjoy today? Results that shocked you? Anything on that screen that makes you go, wow, bada bing, bada boom?
Result-wise, yes. We've got 2 foreigners that did edge their way in there, I believe. My eyesight is way too bad and my memory's too poor.
Bunny is definitely through.
Bunny
Jeff,
monster moded today, did a
and
fantastic
Mana
job.
or Rhett is also through.
Mana beat Rhett. So
Mana
Mana's
is through. And
Lilbo
there's
has a
one more.
chance, I
Yeah.
believe.
Lilbo versus Patience is happening.
And I think that's already 2 over Patience, actually. So
Yep.
we'll at least have 2 foreigners. Result-wise, this tournament so far has been super exciting. I have to say, what we've seen on stream is it could have been a lot better for us. I feel like there was a lot of... We took the matchups. We were like, wow, the storyline for this, the games, the potential of the players, this is awesome. Doesn't always pan out that way. So hopefully tomorrow we get to see... Personally, I'm just selfishly talking about us.
Yeah.
Some really cool games because that's what we're seeing out there.
Yeah.
But that's, another... You actually gave this earlier, but I also want to echo the sentiments. A tip of the hat to the community streamers because there's been so many great games that it would be a shame if these were all missed completely, but we were
it'd be
able to see a lot of them.
Absolute tragedy if no one got to see Sue versus Classic. That's one matchup that I would have killed to cast, but you know what? We had to stick to the storyline.
We had to see Snute defend his chance to make it.
Absolutely,
to
it had
BlizzCon,
to happen. But there's been some great matchups that we didn't get to cast on the main stream, unfortunately. But
Hopefully tomorrow, Moonblades.
tomorrow we're gonna see it. Don't worry.
Nathanius.
The weather in San Diego?
I'm 75 and sunny. Nathanius, which Terran player then did stand out for you today? I mean, we
why
saw
does
a
it have
couple.
to be a Terran player? Sean, why does it have to be a Terran player to talk about? I'm exceedingly happy about that Rhett Mana thing, right? I'm as happy as anyone else to see a non-Korean player make it in here because, as you guys said, I would like to see them at DreamHack Winter as well.
Good point.
There is more at stake for this tournament than just WCS points, of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go back to the Terran thing, though. Jack G must have impressed you. Did he not?
Can I put my money on MMA instead?
If you want,
That's nice to
Right.
see. That's a big result. 2-1 over Life.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
That's big.
That's pretty
Your
damn good.
TVZ's sharp if you're doing that.
Life is supposed to be that guy that we don't talk about as much because we know he'll make it far, and
Yeah.
then whoever we built the storyline about, he kills them, right? That's just how it works.
Let's talk
so.
about him in the final 4 or 8,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
tomorrow's game's going to be amazing, though. 16
yeah.
players. We started today, including Group Stage 1 with 96. Dropped down 80 players to them with just 16 now.
Yeah.
It's going to be an incredibly tense day instead of games. We don't exactly know which games we're going to be broadcasting yet because the schedule isn't out yet, or the game schedule. But we can take a look at what time things happen, I guess, but not what matchups are going to happen.
The little
until a couple of
fat this
hours.
tournament had has been trimmed. This is like Kaldor in his bulking period. This is like 2 days after when he has gotten rid of the 1 pound of water weight and is now just absolutely veiny. You know what I mean?
We're going to cover one best of 3 from the groups 1 or the game. Sorry, the bracket 1 to 4. The first 4 games. We'll cover one of them here. Then we'll cover another one from the lower bracket. So we'll be doing 2 round of 16 games, and then from the round of 8, of course, we'll be doing everything. Nice. Slight difference, though, because of the World of Warcraft and the Hearthstone regionals that are happening across the weekend that DreamHack are covering. The real show starts for the round of 4, though, from the semifinals and above.
Well, I heard we had to cut it down to round of 4, actually, because Artos' ego takes up the other half of the stage at round of 8 for Hearthstone. So we actually had to...
I thought we weren't allowed to talk about that on stream.
Oh. Either way, it's out. You know
well,
what I mean?
too late.
So lots of action coming
Cat's out of the
your
bag.
way. As In Control spoils the surprise that we were going to talk about tomorrow.
You'll notice, by the way, we start earlier tomorrow, guys, so set your clocks.
Yeah.
It's all day awesome StarCraft. All of these guys are going to be fighting for really important storylines. I know Jaedong is not out of the clearing yet. He needed to make it to round of 8 to make it a 97% that he's at BlizzCon, I think. So if he loses his next best of 3, he too will be watching the GSL and the WCS systems going, well, please lose.
Yeah, definitely stay around Twitter this evening because, of course, the bracket will get announced in the next few hours or so. Final question before we head this one out. Pick a player who's going to do extremely well tomorrow, starting with you, Jeff. You can choose the obvious if you want to.
Yeah, I kind of have to, but I feel a little bit justified. Jaedong called out this tournament. He said he wants to be at BlizzCon, and so far, if you're going to judge the man by what we've seen, he monster moded all over Total Biscuit's Axiom's Ryung. Just monster moded all over his face. And then everybody else,
all over it.
Team Liquid's very own Mana, he took a solid steamy dump on him as well. Just been clear, concise defecation so far on his opponents. So I'm really excited about that. When Jaedong swings for the fences and calls it out, he usually does pretty good. There have been a few times where he's like, I'll be your champion. I've actually been, you know, it's been a lot of DreamHacks last year where he's like, I've got this one.
Remember the final versus Hyun? He comes out dancing, he's like, JVZ!
I got my matchup! And it's like, oh, shoot, the guy in pajama pants actually killed you pretty good. So far, so good. And I do the speech every time. I know people are like, oh, Jaedong. But honestly, like, this is a guy I've been watching since I was very young in Brood War. And I can't help but to be super excited about him. And he's had a tough year. It has not been the best results. There's no excuses to be made. They just weren't great. This is the term to turn it on because this could propel him into BlizzCon. And I think there's a lot of fans out there, not just me, who would love to be earnest with themselves and say, Jaedong, go kick ass at BlizzCon.
I mean, I'm going to disagree with the In Control soundboard speech on Jaedong. But I think I'm going to go to left field. I'm going to say I feel like we're probably going to see another top 4 finish from Life. I just feel like people don't talk about him enough. So he's going to upset every person that has come into this tournament with high hopes. And I want to be on that the train of tears.
You want to have called it.
Yes, I want to have called the end of all hype trains when life stands in the way of them.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna pretty much do the most non-surprising one and say Sue is actually gonna win.
3 Zergs.
Hey, this is Sue, man. Whoa. Sue actually got revenge on Classic, who beat him in GSL Grand Finals.
Okay.
Sue beat Zest, who beat him in GSL Grand Finals. Sue is on a revenge streak, and tomorrow he's gonna finally take that win that he deserves.
I like it. I also want to see the winner interview between Sue Smix and Sue. From Sue, like Sue, take it away. Interview Sue.
Thanks for that, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. As always.
Well said.
I love those moments in time. Really? You're waiting, aren't you?
Thank you very much.
That wasn't very good, Jeff. That wasn't super informative.
Awesome day with you guys once again.
People.
Thank you very much for your opinions, your expertise, and your analysis, Jeff. As Nathaniel
well, they
said.
did some stuff too.
They did do some stuff
honestly.
too. Awesome casting, boys. I love the services of Cast Nathanius.
No worries.
Guys, thanks for watching DreamHack Stockholm. DreamHack Open Stockholm Day 1. We'll be back tomorrow for Day 2 where the round of 16 begins.